Good morning, everyone. The different format from our usual signing arrangements, but delighted to have everybody here. Today is an important occasion where we're signing supporting argument to the National Dialogue Commission. Very delighted to see that the EU and the countries have come together. Professor Mesfin Arad, Chief Commissioner of the National Dialogue Commission, ambassadors, heads of agencies and representatives of development partners, excellencies, ladies and gentlemen. First of all, I'd like to welcome you all to the signing ceremony for the support to the National Dialogue Commission. Today's joint signing ceremony is unique because it brings together European Union and several of its members as well as Norway. Thank you for the support and your positive response to request to support the National Dialogue Commission through UNDP managed multi-donor trust fund. As you all know, the National Dialogue Commission is established by the House of People's Representatives with a 3-year mandate to lead, facilitate, and undertake national dialogue discussions in Ethiopia. The Commission is entrusted to lead an independent, inclusive, and transparent national dialogue. The dialogue is expected to resolve fundamental national difference and misunderstandings towards building national consensus among Ethiopians, and this is very important. To support the work of the Commission, a document program has been prepared by the National Dialogue Commission with technical and financial support from UNDP. This program document was signed on September 29, 2022 by the Ministry of Finance, UNDP, the National Dialogue Commission, and commenced its operations immediately after. The total budget of 35 million is required over a 3-year period of time to implement this program, of which 2.2 million is committed by UNDP, while the remaining 32.8 million is to be mobilized from partners and government. So far, a total of 12 million USD has been mobilized from partners, including the 7 million USD that we're signing today. We expect the EU member states to join hands and continue to support the Commission as we go along this line. On the other hand, the National Dialogue Commission, of which we are going to update soon, has already started its work and started consultations in various parts of the country. This work is expected to expand as we go forward. The Commission has informed us that it's reached a decisive stage, whereby it feels now it's time to accelerate its support to the people and advance its programs. It's therefore a critical time for the National Dialogue Commission to deliver its mandates and public expectations. In this regard, I would like to extend my sincere appreciation to the EU Commission, its member states, Norway, who have shown firm support to the national dialogue process and the financial commitment of 7 million USD. Finally, let me thank UNDP, Mr. Tohan Saleh personally and his team for working closely, very hard on providing technical and financial support to the Commission, as well as reaching out to our development partners and mobilizing much needed support. Thank you all very much for your utmost support in managing and facilitating support to the Commission. This is why the government, with the confidence it has delegated to UNDP to coordinate and support the Commission through the establishment of Management Multi-Donor Trust Fund, will help deliver what we're expecting. I would like to welcome you all and thank you very much for joining Ethiopia on this important journey. Thank you.
I'm here this morning with my commissioners, Commissioner Grimwork, Pietro is here, Excellency Mr. Marita Sawasel, the Minister of Finance, Excellency Ambassador Roland Kobia, Head of Delegation of the European Union, Excellencies, Ambassadors and representatives of development partners, Mr. Turhan Saleh, the President Representative, ENDC, Ethiopian Country Office, respected guests, and ladies and gentlemen. On behalf of the Ethiopian National Dialogue Commission and myself, I would like to express my pleasure and gratitude to attend this signing ceremony between the European Union, Federal Ministry of Finance, and UNDP Country Office to support the National Dialogue Project, which is part of the Ethiopian National Dialogue Program. Ladies and gentlemen, as Ethiopia is aspiring to see a peaceful and stable nation through conflict transformation and consensus building mechanism, we are keen to partner with the international community and friends of Ethiopia. The Ethiopian National Dialogue Commission has finalized, as Her Excellency earlier said, the preparatory phase of the dialogue process. Currently, the Commission has embarked the process of selection of participants and agenda collection at the grassroots level throughout the country. So far, identification and selection of participants is completed in Sidama and Hara regions, as well as Dreddawa City Administration. ENDC, that's the Ethiopian National Dialogue Commission, staff led by the commissioners are now actively engaged with the same process in Southwest, Benishangul Gumuz, and Gambella regions. Within the next couple of weeks, ENDC hopes that all regions, including Addis Ababa, will be covered. The diaspora engagement is also underway. Virtual induction as well as consultative meetings will be held by the end of this month. The Commission expects active engagement from Tigray Regional Administration. The hope is agenda collection and setting process will be completed before the current Ethiopian New Year ends, and the national dialogue to commence before the end of the Gregorian calendar. Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen, while carrying out intricate yet extraordinary task of on the ground, we count on you, development partners, federal regional governments, and friends of Ethiopia, to stand and support us throughout the process, where we value and acknowledge open-heartedly your support and enthusiasm. Ladies and gentlemen, finally, the ENDC is truly and sincerely thankful to the European Union and its people for generous financial support and optimistic view of the success of the dialogue process in Ethiopia. This also includes Norway. I also would like to extend my gratitude to UNDP for its relentless and continued technical and financial support for the materialization of the various components of the dialogue process, including strengthening of the capacity of the Commission in all fundamental areas. I thank you very much.
May I now invite the EU Ambassador, His Excellency Roland Kobia.
A very good morning to all, State Minister, Professor, fellow ambassadors, acting head of resident coordinator, and our dear friend Turan from UNDP, and ladies and gentlemen. Look, this is the kind of event that is both the beginning and the end. It's the end of a process because we have been discussing with our fellow ambassadors about helping the National Dialogue Commission, and this event materializes in a way, the work that has been done over the last months or so in Norway to help you in your efforts. It's also the beginning because this is a new partnership So I'm extremely happy to be here with my fellow European ambassadors. Thank you all for coming, as well as Norway. And I'm sure that you will see in the future other European states that will join this effort. I have to say that the funds will be kindly channeled through the United Nations system and managed by UNDP, so we are in safe hands. Look, over the past 2 years, we have followed very closely and with very great interest the genesis of this national dialogue. And we have been, I must say, from the very outset, staunch supporters of it. Even at the time where sometimes some people, but it's always the case, you always find skeptical people, negative people, but we have always thought that this was an initiative that was useful and that was important for the country. So we do not regret to have been supported, even publicly, even if a lot of work remains to be done, admittedly, and you have hinted to that, Professor. So let me first encourage all of you, Professor, and all the commissioners and your team. You have been assigned with a very complex, yet extremely important task. But with the determination and commitment that you are showing and your leadership, Professor Mesfin, we are also, I think, in good hands. We are confident with the colleagues that the decision made during the preparatory phase that you hinted at will set the tone for the process and contribute to the ultimate legacy and legitimacy of the political forces and the public that need to participate in this. The work has so far been very inclusive, very participative, and this is good. It has not always been the case in some processes, but I think this sets a new standard and hopefully will be an inspiration for further processes. So the EU and member states support, again, the national dialogue, and that comes from our first belief that Ethiopia internally possesses all the capabilities, the will and the potential to find pathways for dialogue and consensus itself. We are just donors here. And ultimately, of course, the work that you are doing will bring more peace and more progress in all areas, politically, economically, but also for the social fabric of the country. Since we have arrived in Ethiopia, all of us, I think we have been all impressed by Ethiopian women and men that all have an undisputed common denominator, and that is resilience and courage to face everyday economic hardship, conflicts, natural disasters, and so on and so forth. So the social fragmentation and challenges that sometimes Ethiopia is facing, just like many of us in our own countries, need and call for a national dialogue that is inclusive, transparent, and effective, including all views, bringing all perceptions and perspectives together. One of the main concerns that I personally do have is that all the work that you are doing is not in a vacuum, that this takes place in a wider environment to reach a sustainable peace. National dialogues do not live alone. They are part of a broader continuum of mutually reinforcing local, subnational, and national efforts that need to foster dialogue, agreements, and drive towards peace. So while the Commission should be able to work with independence and impartiality, it needs the support of the public and of the public authorities. Political will, we believe, will be key to support your work and its future proposals, so all the buy-in and the ownership that you are trying to achieve through the participation and the inclusiveness is very much welcome and going in the right direction. So this is why we encourage, as Europeans, the Ethiopian government to continue efforts on peace and to implement the necessary actions for the full implementation of the cessation of hostilities agreement that is very complementary to what the National Dialogue Commission is doing, and on transitional justice, amongst others. So the idea to create a wider, conducive environment for an effective and efficient output of the national dialogue is needed. I will end in saying that the EU, its member states, and Norway wish that the National Dialogue Commission to succeed, we wish you all the very best in this extremely important task of bringing together all Ethiopians. We affirm our continuous support for this dialogue and for providing all the means to make it a success within the framework of peace and democracy. Finally, I would like to emphasize, and this is probably the most important point, that while we support the national dialogue morally, politically, and now financially, this is an Ethiopian process. This is a process by you, for you, and for all Ethiopians. And again, we are donors here. So nowhere, I think, could this beautiful proverb that I try to use at every meeting, that is embodying so much and so well the efforts that you are trying to do in bringing all the forces of Ethiopia together to overcome the challenges, is Der Beyaber and Besa Yeser. Thank you.
Our next speaker will be the UN President Coordinator's Acting Intern, Mr. Marcel Clemens.
Thank you. I think it's a really pleasure to assume this interim role with such an important event, because it's one of the very strongly critical processes that Ethiopia is really working. So I'm not just very happy, but also honored to start on my acting role in that capacity. And good morning, friends, Excellencies, Your Excellency, Mrs. Semerita, Senior State Minister of Finance, Your Excellency Professor Nesflin Raya, Chief Commissioner, the Ethiopian National Dialogue Commission. Very happy to have you here, and then all people here. I recognize all of you, Excellency Ambassador, Head of the development agencies and colleagues and the UN system. So, good morning. On behalf of the UN country team, it gives us, as I indicated, a great pleasure to be here in this morning, and it joins the signing ceremony for the support of the Ethiopian National Dialogue Commission. As the United Nations, we recognize a national dialogue as an indispensable means for resolving disputes, building a democratic culture, and then tackling issues that reinforce peace in the country. This is one of the very many such processes that have taken place currently in Ethiopia, and we are very much happy and grateful for all the effort from across the board that are contributing to it. We also comment on a multilateral approach of engagement with the Ethiopian National Dialogue Commission. As I participate in today's signing event, I congratulate the Team Europe for coming together and in the manner which I believe is extremely critical for moving the dialogue forward. The last several months have seen the considerable work undertaken by the Commission in laying the groundwork firmly for sensitive national process that require building of a trust and a like-minded coalition around the process, developing agenda and then identifying participants. These are important ingredients for a credible dialogue process, recognizing that the process is important as, if not even more important than the outcome. It is also important to note that a national dialogue needs to be firmly embedded in a long-term transition that will open up a space for continuous dialogue and bring in all relevant parties to fully participate in such a process. Excellency, ladies and gentlemen, we are now witnessing that the Ethiopian National Dialogue Commission is getting into another most critical phase of its work, namely grassroots consultation. As in any dialogue process, I think Ron has mentioned it already, challenges and skepticism will always be there. And but there must be a joint effort to maintain and restore trust of all actors in the dialogue, because the dialogue is the engine that is really leading all the constituencies toward a sustainable peace in Ethiopia. As a United Nation, it is our interest as one of a partner in this journey to encourage and support every available option for reducing the risk, diminishing the chances of a failure, and then instead boosting opportunity for success. And before closing, I would like to reaffirm the commitment of the United Nations to continue supporting the ENDC through UNDP to deliver its mandate while respecting its independence, as we have done in similar national initiatives, such as national elections, and then even more recently, the peace support and then disarmament, demobilization, and reintegration initiative, the PDR. On that note, I think that I would want just to thank all of you, and then I wish us a very successful delivery of this dividend that we hope will help Ethiopia to get Friday in peace and then in harmony with itself as it has been so far. Thank you very much for this.
I now invite my boss, UNDP Res Rep, Mr. Thomas.
Excellency State Minister Sebeneta Sowaso, Excellency Chief Commissioner of the ENDC, Professor Mesfin Araya, Excellency Commissioner Tegenewar Getu, Excellency Ambassador Ronald Kobia, Excellencies Ambassadors and Heads of Development Cooperation. A lot of excellencies in this room. And it's a wonderful thing that that is the case. And my colleague, Marcel Akbabo, UNRCHC AF. Good morning to you all. I would like to begin by thanking the government of Ethiopia for the trust that it continues to place in UNDP on behalf of the United Nations in selecting us to manage multi-partner contributions to the national dialogue, but also to the DDR process and elections. We take this affirmation and responsibility very seriously. I would like to also express my appreciation, sincere appreciation, as well to Excellency Professor Mesfin for the very close and cordial relationship that we have established between ENDC and UNDP over the course of the past year. Much has been accomplished during that period, together. And our sincere thanks go to our partners gathered here from the European Union, from the EU member states, and Norway, and others as well, who have come forward to support the national dialogue through us. We hope very much that you will continue to do so, because it's my responsibility to point out that there is still a funding gap. Nevertheless, your support, and Ambassador Kolbia mentioned that very clearly, your support, not just financial, but moral and political, is invaluable for this exercise and invaluable in supporting UNDP to do its job to assist the Commission in its important national endeavor. The National Dialogue represents an historic opportunity to help establish a new political culture in Ethiopia that emphasizes non-violent and consensual ways of addressing and hopefully resolving issues of fundamental consequence for the country. If it works, and we are confident at UNDP that it will, despite the many challenges, then a new frontier of possibilities will open up for Ethiopia's peaceful and rapid development. On that note, let me reassure the government, the Commission, our partners, that UNDP will spare no effort in accompanying the country and the Commission in the journey that lies ahead as part of the United Nations family and working with the rest of our agencies and entities in the UN family in Ethiopia. Thank you.
I now hand over back to our State Minister, Sebeneta, to invite other representatives to say a few words. Everyone can remain seated.
There's opportunity because we have a big team for us to reflect ideas. If any of the ambassadors would like to say a few words, the floor.
We have, as many others in this room, have been following very closely the developments since the establishment of the Commission in 2021. And there's no doubt that the success and the sustainability of this vital national project is contingent upon this process being both Ethiopian-led and Ethiopian-owned. Norway's foreign policy objectives in terms of both democratic governance and also peace building are reflected in the support of this project. And this is clearly an opportunity to build up the capacity of such democratic actors such as civil society, women, marginalized groups, youth, and disabled